I'm starting a new series that I'm calling Live Your Own Life Heroes. These are women and men who, in one way or another, refuse simply to inherit the assumptions of their culture. The assumptions, the conventions, the norms. They asked difficult questions, they challenged prevailing wisdom. Sometimes they even paid a tremendous price for doing so. But because they did, they left us ideas and ways of being in the world that can help us to live our own lives, to inspire us. And I thought I'd begin with someone who might not be the obvious choice. His name is Emmanuel Levinas. And unless you've studied philosophy or read some theology, you might not have heard of him. You won't find him quoted on Instagram, and he doesn't appear in motivational memes. As well, his writing, to be honest, is notoriously difficult, but hidden in all his work is, I think, one of the most profound insights into why so many of us struggle to live our own lives. Levinas was born in Lithuania in 1906 into a Jewish family. And as a young man, he got fascinated by the philosophy of Edmund Husserl, who some regard as the father of phenomenology, and Martin Heidegger, two of the greatest philosophers of their era. Heidegger, in particularly, changed his life because Levinas admired him a lot. And then the Second World War happened. Levinas was captured as a French soldier, and he spent 5 years inside a German prisoner of war camp. But most of his family who remained in Lithuania were murdered by the Nazis. I mean, imagine that. And when he emerged from the war, he wasn't asking abstract philosophical questions that his mentor, Heidegger, was asking. And besides which, he discovered that Heidegger had actually signed on to the Nazi Party. So, whereas Heidegger was asking questions like, what is reality? What is consciousness? What is being? Levinas was asking something much more urgent in light of his own life experience. And that is, how is it possible for human beings to stop seeing other human beings as people and to treat them so violently and with so much evil? How does another person become merely a Jew, a foreigner, an enemy, a statistic, a problem, a category? What happens in us that allows us to erase the humanity of another person's life? And that question shaped his whole life work. And so he gave us two extraordinary words, and I'll get into his philosophy a little bit here, remembering that he's very abstract and complex, and I'm trying to make it understandable. So the first word is totality, and the second one is infinity. That might sound intimidating, but actually it can be fairly simple to understand. So let's begin with totality. Imagine you meet somebody for the first time. Notice that your mind already starts working, and this is the mind of the ego. Young, old, successful, good looking, not so good looking, conservative, liberal, warm, cold, attractive, difficult, safe, unsafe. And within seconds, we've placed them somewhere within our map of reality. And we rarely notice that we're doing it. Because our nervous system is designed to simplify, to organize, to reduce uncertainty, to predict. And that can be useful. But Levinas is saying something very important happens, and that is that we stop actually meeting the person. Instead, we begin relating to our idea of the person. We're absorbed into what he calls the same, or sameness. That's totality. Everything, everyone now fits into my categories, my expectations, my interpretations, my history, my fears, my needs. The other, as other, has actually disappeared. Not physically, maybe, but I mean existentially. They have become my version of them. And that's totality. That's sameness. Everything, everybody gets reduced until they fit comfortably with inside my world. And here's where I want to make a connection to people pleasing that Levinas actually doesn't make himself. Most people think people pleasers are wonderfully other oriented because they're always thinking of everybody else. They're endlessly accommodating. They're helpful, kind, nice. They're good people. They're always available. But underneath all that, something else is happening. And that is that they have given the other person, quietly, given them a job. Your job is to reassure me. Your job is to not reject me. Your job is to approve of me, to love me, is to let me know that I'm worthwhile. So I have now recruited you into my survival strategy. You exist not as an other, not simply as yourself, but as someone who determines whether I feel safe or good about myself. So I'm not necessarily saying that people pleasers don't have moments of genuinely caring. Of course they do, but and many are compassionate. But survival is always woven into love. So my kindness isn't free necessarily. It carries an invisible contract. I'll become whoever you need me to be if you become whoever I need you to be. And that's not freedom, that's mutual captivity. And Levinas would ask the question to us, have you actually met this person? Or have you only met the role they play inside your psychological role? And it's a devastating question. Because you start to realize, I often don't let people surprise me. I don't let them disappoint me. I somehow control the conversation so they're not disappointed in me. I don't let them disagree with me because I use my language and so that we can find common ground. I don't let them be different from who I need them to be. I totalize them. I same them. And going deeper than that, there's another twist. People pleasing doesn't only totalize other people, it totalizes me, it totalizes us. Think about it for a moment. If your nervous system learned, stay agreeable, stay useful, don't upset anyone, read the room, keep everybody happy, then eventually that's who you become. That's who you believe yourself to be. You identify with that personality. And every situation is the same strategy. Every disagreement, same strategy. Every conversation, same strategy. You've become predictable. You fit yourself into an image of yourself, an idea of yourself. You've become a survivor. You've reduced yourself to this repetitive way of being. You've samed yourself. You're never surprised. You're not open to discovery or curiosity. And we do it again and again and again. Levinas introduces another word, infinity. And I know that when we hear that word, we often think of the universe, like endless time or spirituality. But that's not quite what he means. Infinity is what happens when another person refuses to fit inside my categories, or when I refuse to fit them inside my categories. They remain larger than all my explanations, all my theories, more mysterious than all my assumptions and conclusions about them. I suddenly realize there's always more to this person than I can know. Their otherness is infinite. They exceed my grasp. Their humanity can't be exhausted by my understanding. And when you have a genuine experience of this, it changes you. Because I can no longer pretend that the universe revolves around me or fits into my map of reality. And I wonder if something similar can happen inwardly. And again, this is my conversation with Levinas. It's not Levinas himself. What if I am more mysterious than my survival strategy? What if there's more to me than this little default mode network in the center of my brain that limits the possibilities? What if I'm larger than this identity, this image that I've been repeating for 50 or 60 or 70 years? What if the people pleaser is not who I am? It's just the identity that I curated in response to unfavorable conditions very early in my life. What if there's still an infinity within me that's never been lived out? Endless possibilities I haven't even considered. That's what interests me. Because what I call the heart self is not just another part. It's not another role, another personality, or an improved version of ego. It's the presence within us that's never exhausted by yesterday's story. It's endlessly creative, endlessly responsible, endlessly alive, because reality itself is endlessly unfolding, and what I'm calling heart self participates in that unfolding. And one of the things I love about Levinas is that he completely overturns our understanding of freedom. Because sometimes we think of freedom as like, I'm free to do anything I want. But Levinas doesn't buy it. He says, freedom begins when other people no longer have to exist for me. Freedom begins when I let myself out of this very small box of who I thought I was. Think about that. Like, if I don't need you to admire me, I'm freer. If I don't need you to validate me, I'm freer. If I don't need you to rescue me, I'm freer. Or to agree with me, I'm freer. And you're free too, because I've released you. I'm not recruiting you anymore to fill me up. And now, for the very first time, maybe we can bridge the infinite otherness of the other with something we call, and what Levinas calls, care. And we discover ethics precedes philosophy, ethics precedes theology. It's a built-in feature of the universe. If we will allow others to be others, to actually, their otherness will actually summon out of us this condition of care, of love. And that otherness of the other is bridged by love, by care, which doesn't reduce the otherness. It lets it be, but there's still a deep connection, a true connection. This is what I would call liberating love. Love that allows you to be you, and if you're allowing me to be me, we're free together, and that alone can be love. So here's a practice for the week. Choose one person, maybe somebody whose opinion matters a lot to you, and before your next conversation, just quietly say to yourself, I release you from the job I've unconsciously given you. I don't need you to approve of me or to reassure me. I don't need you to confirm my validity. I don't need you to be somebody else so that I'll feel comfortable. Then just get curious. Who is this person? Then the fun starts. What surprises you? What did you learn? Do you feel more alive? And then direct that same curiosity towards yourself. Who am I? When I'm no longer repeating the strategy that once kept me safe. And perhaps that's where living our own life begins. It's not that we become somebody completely new, but by allowing the infinity that's always been there to be expressed through us, to emerge. Thanks for listening to this. And next time I'm going to introduce you to another hero who had the courage to live his own life, and that's Henry David Thoreau.